Ever dreamed of exploring an abandoned building and finding something cool? That's exactly what happened to a man from Scotland when he and a friend decided to poke around a disused public building in his hometown in 2013. But even this intrepid adventurer could not have expected to discover the creepy things he found inside. The building complex in question is situated in Clydebank, which is just outside of Glasgow in Scotland, and it's attached to the area's town hall. In fact, the primary explorer remembered the theater and stage sections of the structure's interior from when he was a kid, but he never thought he'd find anything as huge and crazy as what he discovered inside this time around. He made his way into the building, and after venturing down a creepy staircase, it got pretty dark pretty soon. Indeed, in many areas of the structure, the electrics had been shut off, and the explorers had to use the flash on their camera to see. One room contained what looked like costumes for past theatrical productions, but that's not what the explorer thought they were when he first saw them. Certainly, he said he'd taken the picture in the dark, and the sudden appearance of hanging clothes made him think there were people standing all around him. Beyond the theatrical area, they found all sorts of abandoned, long-disused machinery. These rusty, broken air conditioning fans, for example, were apparently huge. Another workshop contained all sorts of complicated electrical machinery. This set of very sensitive, pre-electronic scales, for instance, would have been able to measure weights to the nearest milligram. Aside from the machinery, though, one of the strangest things, but certainly not the creepiest thing, they found was a huge public bathing complex. This included a full swimming pool, which now stands eerily drained and empty. The guys discovered later that the baths were designed in a Baroque style and opened in 1932. In fact, they're a rare example of the type of public center that would once have been found all over Scotland. Indeed, in the 19th century, as part of a bid to improve the general public's hygiene, the British government launched a drive to build more public baths. This was because, even a century later in the 1930s, many people in Clydebank did not have bathing facilities in their own homes. The swimming pool also contained some strange white plinths, which, according to the building's caretaker, were used for an art exhibition in 1995. Since then, he suggested no one except some copper thieves had entered the building. The Scottish builder at Risk Register, which seeks to preserve historic structures in the country, says that the baths once featured a whole suite of facilities. These included Turkish baths, Russian vapor baths, a laundry, and a massage room. And excitingly, the explorers found evidence of some of these luxurious facilities, including this abandoned sauna. It even still had the coals in the brazier. Elsewhere, they found offices containing all sorts of junk. It seems like there were decaying piles of everything from computers and police files to exercise equipment and a rusty floor cleaner. Some of the stuff they found, however, was just plain weird. For example, they came across an ancient shopping trolley that was left 2 floors underground. Other things, though, were way up there on the creepy scale. Indeed, one unsettling room not only had carpets on the floor, but also on the walls, while a leaking window in the ceiling shed light on just 2 lonely chairs. But by far the spookiest thing they came across was the abandoned jail. Yes, you heard that right, the abandoned jail. It even came complete with rows of heavily barred cells. As is evident from these pictures, the atmosphere in this place was certainly eerie. The fact that there were still heavy locks on all the doors and gates probably didn't help either, nor did the fact that each of the jail cells contained a concrete bed. Some of the cells also featured something interesting, if a little creepy: graffiti. The explorer was confused by one scrawl that read Jock 97, as the last record in the prison logbook comes from 1994. Perhaps there had been 1 or 2 other explorers down here since the closure of the place in 1995. And one of these explorers, or indeed one of the past prisoners, must have had a lot of spare time, as they managed to carve an artistic design on the doorpost of this cell. It appears to depict 2 people shaking hands in front of a heart. All in all, then, it turned out to be a pretty fascinating place. The whole complex doesn't just hold an amazing insight into the history of Clydebank, it also reminds us that behind every boarded up window or locked door of an abandoned building, there could be a fascinating story to tell.